Welcome to Two Crazy Scoops Podcast, Season 4, with your hosts, Ao and Antino. This week, we have special guest Jack Smith with us to talk about a variety of topics, as we will soon find out, as usual. So welcome, Two Crazy Scoops. As I said, I'm Antino, and I'm with Ao today. How you doing?
You're talking to me, aren't you?
Or how you doing, Jack? We'll start with you.
I am well. First of all, I had to remember that I'm Jack Smith. I use my other name all the time.
Oh, Joaquim. I didn't want to screw it up, so I was just like, I'll stick with Jack.
Just stick with that. That's fine.
Yeah. So how's it going, Aaron?
Good, man. Good. It's a good day. We have our good friend Jack here, and we are looking forward to interviewing you today and asking you some questions and picking your brain because you have a lot of knowledge and we want to get to it. But before we get into the meat of the interview, we want to start with some icebreaker questions.
All right.
First, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us where you're from and where you live now.
Interesting. Okay, I am born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm one of the 5 natives that are here because everybody else is from someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I said, I've been living here my whole life. I'm working. I have an unusual work past, if you will. Usually out of high school to the age that I am now, which is about people have multiple jobs. In my entire life, I've only had 3.
Wow.
I graduated from high school back in 19 and I had a job for 3 months at Jack in the Box.
Okay.
My next job was for 14 years at one major credit card company. And now I work for one of the major banks since then. And I've been there since then for the past 20 some odd years. 3 jobs only. Now, usually I think after high school, doesn't a person have 3 jobs like in the first 3 months?
I know. Yeah. It does seem that way now. But if it makes you, no, maybe they're a little bit older than you. I was going to say, I have a lot of family members who, being from Detroit, they work for the car companies and they went there straight out of high school and they graduated. Most of them, like before they turned 60, they retired from one of the car companies. So they only had one job, for 30 plus years. So I think for the millennials, it might be a little bit different, but I say if you can do it, it's probably better. Probably better that way to just stick to one thing, because sometimes you move into something you can't stand, and and there goes your life right there. The stress from the new job.
I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you.
Oh no, it's all good. You can laugh at me. It is funny. I laugh at myself all the time. All right, cool. So we're going to go into your jobs a little bit, and then what we came here to talk about is our love for foreign languages. But before we get that, I have some icebreaker questions for you. Antino hates these, but I think they're pretty good.
Sure, I'm an open book.
Okay.
All right, so we'll start off easy. So how many languages can you speak?
Fluently 3. Understanding probably I'm gonna go out on a limb and say 2 more, but I don't speak them though.
Okay.
I fluently speak in order of understanding. Portuguese is first, Spanish is second, English is third. That's sad, but it's become true in my life. And I can understand Italian and a little bit of Romanian, and that's of course all because they're Latin languages.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
For some strange reason, though, and it's no knock against them, but somehow French, I can't get French. I remember going to Montreal, the wife and I, and not Montreal. It wasn't Montreal. It was Ontario. We went to Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
and I sat in the hotel room, turned the television news on. So I figure, okay, with visual and the fact that I can understand Latin languages, I will be understand what this newscaster is saying. I understood exactly one word, baby.
Got you.
When it comes to French, it just shuts off. One day, maybe I'll pick it up.
You know what was funny? And I was thinking about this as you were talking. I think so those languages you mentioned, like Italian and Romanian, I can actually read those as well as French a little bit. And I do have a little bit of history with French, but I can actually read them. But as far as understanding, it's a little bit tougher for me. But for French, I bet you could read French.
I
bet you could read it.
Well, it's a wonderful language, but there's a whole lot of letters that they
right.
don't.
Yeah. I tried reading it one time and I was like, what do I do with the X? I don't know. I don't know what to do with this right now.
Sorry, I froze for a second. But yeah, no, there's I think you could actually read French though. I think you could read it.
I'll have to venture one day.
We'll have to test you with a simple sentence and see if you can read it. But no, I think you can read it. I think it's just the pronunciation. They pronounce everything differently. Once you learn their pronunciation, then you're good. But they have a very unique way of talking. So
gotcha.
But all right, cool. What is your favorite strange food combination?
Ooh, now see, a lot of your listeners may want to close their ears, or at least some Pepto-Bismol, because it can. I have some very strange things. First of all, for me, ketchup is a food group that is necessary to my existence.
Okay.
So ketchup pretty much goes on everything. We got ketchup on rice, on chicken. We've got ketchup on steak. We've got ketchup sandwiches. Actually, if I'm hungry enough, it'll happen. It's pretty sad. Now, as far as exotic foods and things that I like, pretty much I'm eating anything that comes out of my wife's kitchen. I'm gonna branch off just for a little bit here and say she is the best cook ever. She's actually spoiled me from restaurant food. I go to a restaurant just to associate, not to really enjoy the food, because her food is always better. Okay, now back to this. As for the types of food, would you like to know what I have eaten?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have, of course, because my family's from the South, chitlins. I've had those.
Okay.
Those best things ever. Pretty much any part of the hog. You got the ear, pig ears. You got pig feet. Pretty much anything on a pig, I'll pretty much eat it.
Would you put ketchup?
Hog head cheese, not so much.
Yeah. No, that's nasty. Wait, would you put ketchup on chitlins?
I will not oppose it. It won't be on purpose. But if it happens, I won't oppose it.
Oh, God.
I venture off to, I've got into a lot of Brazilian foods as well. A lot of, my wife now knows she makes feijoada, pão de queijo. Those are good. And then because I'm born and raised in Phoenix, I'm second generation, actually, which is kind of interesting. My father was born and raised here as well. Mexican food, and not Taco Bell. For real Mexican food, like nobody.
Oh, wait.
And
Wait, can you repeat that sentence one more time? You said not what?
Not.
No. You said real Mexican food, not.
Oh, not Taco Bell.
Okay. I just wanted you to say that again because I wasn't sure if Antino heard you or not. So
I love Taco Bell.
It's a food. It's not Mexican food.
Exactly. Thank you.
Someone was telling me it all tastes the same. It's just shaped differently in Taco Bell.
Oh, wow. You've conjured up this thing in my head that in the back they have this big block of food and just cut it off. And put it in different things and sell
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But authentic Mexican food. I've been to Thai food too, which has superseded my Chinese food, because Chinese food used to be like my blood. And then I tried Thai food, and that's completely superseded.
Me too. I love Thai food. Nothing like some chicken pad Thai or there's some other combinations. I love curry, anything
Yeah.
like
Oh
that.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So-
We have a Thai place right up the street, which actually is a little dangerous. I wish it wasn't right up the street because then I wouldn't have it every day.
I think Thai food is much better than getting greasy American food, though. So
Oh yeah. Well,
I think you're good there. Let's see. If you could say, I just saw one. Oh, okay. If you could be in the Guinness Book of World Records,
oh, yeah.
what record-breaking feat would you attempt?
Wow. And here's the nerd answer. The nerd answer is to be able to speak the most languages.
Nice. That's perfect.
That's the nerd answer, not the highest jumper or the strongest person. To be able to meet a person and be able to speak to them in their language.
Okay. I'm curious to know who holds that record. Can we
Yeah,
can we
we're
find
looking
that
it up
out?
real
Those
quick.
languages, I saw that once. It was on YouTube, and I forgot who it was.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot who it was, but there is some guy, and I forgot the number of languages too.
Mm-hmm. So if you could choose another language to learn right now, what language would you learn? What would be the next? What would be the next one?
That's a really, really good question. I mean, probably with the Latin background, one would say, okay, let's go ahead and just knock out French and Italian and get fluent in those and move on. But for me, learning the languages that I know, it's because they affect it's going to sound kind of corny, but they affected my heart. I learned Spanish because I fell in love with Spanish. I learned Portuguese because I fell in love with Portuguese. It's not just a mind thing for me, it's a heart thing. And I'm trying to think that for right now, there's really not another language that's grabbing my heart. I wish I could speak Russian, but then we're dealing with a whole other alphabet that's not mine. And so that pushes me away. Mandarin, my younger brother and his wife, they speak Mandarin. Again, not my alphabet. So my sister, she and her family were learning Navajo. That was interesting, except the words are too long, there are two vowels. So I have all these preconceived ideas that's keeping me from going forward with the language learning. But if I did want to learn a new one, I would probably venture into Greek.
Okay.
Actually, I should already know Greek. There's a story behind that, but Greek. That's gonna be. Thank you. You've just made me remember what my next one would be, and it's Greek.
Okay.
Well, I'm curious to hear this.
Yeah, what's the story behind it?
Yeah, I want to hear the story.
I don't know if you want to hear it now or if this comes.
No, go ahead. Go for it.
No, I've always liked Greek outside of Spanish, and it's interesting because Greek, a lot of English is based on Greek words. Actually, a lot of words that we use. But I was going to go to Greece back in '97. Yeah, back in '97, I was planning to go to Greece for a convention there, and I was getting ready to start making my plans to go. And for me to go to another country, I have to know the language of that country. That's how, again, nerdy I am. Not just your hello and whatever. I needed to be conversant, so I was going to start Greek. And something happened that kept me from going to Greece. And I mentioned her earlier. She's in the kitchen cooking there. So once she came in 1997, there was no more Greece.
Got you. Okay. Awesome. Nice.
So do you guys want to know, according to Google, who speaks the most languages? So it says his name is Ziad Fazah. Born in Liberia, brought up in Beirut, and now living in Brazil, claims to be the world's greatest living polyglot, speaking a total of 59 world languages.
Wow.
So that's According to Google.
59. So, it's not too late. You already got 3 down, and 5. Kind of have 5 going. So 55 more, you're there, Jack. I say you.
It's interesting. I guess I could do that.
You can. You absolutely can.
A previous employer of mine, another boss, a manager, had asked her, because I was on this one woman's team, and they asked her, they go, how many languages does he speak? And what she said intrigued me. This is years ago. What she said intrigued me. She goes, oh, I think he learns a new language a year. And I said, you know what? I should do that. That was 20 years ago, and that hadn't happened, but I could be there. I could almost be there.
You absolutely could. I think you have the mind for it. I've seen some YouTubers who purposely do that and they record their little progress.
Right.
And they don't know the language backwards and forwards and upside down, but they learn enough to have a good conversation with everybody. So just enough to have a basic conversation.
But you know what? When I met you, Jack, I just kind of assumed you knew sign language because you're so expressive. But I was surprised to learn that you didn't.
Actually, you know what? Thank you very much. It's sign language before Greek.
Oh,
that's what I want to learn.
Sign language. Nice.
Well, I have a niece who is going deaf, and when she married my nephew, I had promised her, like, when they got married, I go, in a year, I'm going to know sign language. So you and I can converse. That was like 5 years and 2 children ago. I feel kind of bad.
Oh, wow.
I feel kind of bad. I'm a little behind. But sign language and Greek, I could do both of them.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Greek sign language.
Nice. All right, cool. Another icebreaker question, even though we've already broke the ice, but I still think that these are kind of funny. Have you ever been mistaken for someone famous?
Wow. Did somebody talk to you? Or is that a general question?
That's just a general question.
That is so funny. All the time. And I don't see it. Now, trust me, I don't walk around saying that I'm this guy.
Okay.
But a lot of people, my wife starts, she's the first one that said it, and a lot of random people without my glasses, are you related to Denzel Washington? You look just like
Denzel
Washington.
Nice.
I'm like, that's nice, but I don't see it at all.
A good one. That's a
one
good
time,
one.
one time my wife had gone to some place and I had to walk in and ask, where's my wife, basically. And she told people up front, well, when he comes in, he'll be good looking and he looks like Denzel. And so when I walked in, I'm like looking around kind of, and they go, are you looking for Wanda? Yeah, how did you know? She said to look for somebody that looks like Denzel. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Nice.
What are you drinking?
I love it.
It's a random question that I hadn't answered to.
It's funny because that used to be that was, and it probably still is, but it used to be like the gold standard. Like that was the highest compliment for any man. If you say, hey, you look like Denzel, then that was a huge compliment. So that's a good one. That's really good. Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. So we kind of talked a little bit about this, but we're going to go back to a little bit of backstory on the languages that you speak. So you mentioned Spanish and Portuguese. So what made you want to learn those languages? Which one did you learn first? What's the story behind that?
Spanish. Spanish was the first one that I learned. And interesting, when I mentioned that I'm a native, I'm born and raised here. However, when I was a year old, we moved to Southern California. And then when I was 8, we moved back. So I don't really count that time as being away. I remember as far back as 5 and 6 playing on the playground at school, hearing this group of kids speaking a language that I didn't know. And then my father, he played minor baseball, the minor leagues, I should say.
Oh, okay.
And which is interesting. That's a little other side story. He almost ended up in the major leagues, and he aged out or something. I still don't know that complete story, but he was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, when we went to the baseball games, I would be hearing this other language, and I remember, as they're running around the bases, I remember people shouting, "Ándale, ándale pues, ándale, ándale pues," and I thought, what does that mean? What are they saying? And it was then, and also the friends that I had in school were Mexican American, and so I thought I need to learn that. I didn't know Spanish. I need to learn this other way of talking so that I can talk with them. Then we moved back to Arizona, and then I want to say it's the fourth grade. Yeah, it must be the fourth grade. So we moved back when I was in the third grade. So in the fourth grade, the teacher at that time was Mrs. Davis. I remember her. She took a portion of the class to teach us some Spanish words type of a thing. Not a major thing of the day, just here's some Spanish words. She's a Black woman, but she wanted to teach us some Spanish. And so it rekindled what was happening a couple of years earlier. And then ever since then, my father, he spoke some Spanish because he's a native here as well. He spoke some Spanish. And so I'm picking up, words here, words there, that type of thing. Still that love for it. And then finally, as a freshman in high school, it was a class. And I thought, I've got to take this class. So as a freshman year, I didn't know what I was doing. I just chose classes. It wasn't until I became a sophomore and realized, oh, I should have took those classes to get those credits. I think everybody does that. Because when you're a freshman, you don't know anything. And then sophomore is like, oh, I need these credits to graduate. I better go ahead and get them all.
Yeah.
Well, one of the electives was Spanish. So I took Spanish 1 and 2, and then junior year I took 3 and 4, and got some certificates for it as well. Because again, for me, Spanish is a passion, not just so that I can learn, so that I can get the B grade in school. I wanted to use it. And so I almost got hired. I remember when I was in high school, I almost got hired at a job because they needed Spanish speakers. I didn't speak Spanish at all, but they needed somebody. And so I ended up not getting that job. But in any case, I've always, wanted Spanish and everything. Then finally, I ended up at the first company that I worked at after Jack in the Box, and they ended up needing people who were Spanish speaking because they were opening up an international unit. Basically, the customers who spoke these various different languages, foreign languages, were going to be calling for customer service, and they needed people who spoke Spanish. Well, I got hired not because of my Spanish skills, but because I was the only person that knew how to work the foreign computer base. I had already been working it for a long time, and I had to teach everybody else. And they're like, we need this guy on our team. Well, does he speak Spanish? Well, kind of, a little bit, but not really. And there was that job that put me into an environment where Spanish now became more proficient. So that's my Spanish story. I had wanted to join a Spanish speaking group, and so that didn't happen. So that's what happened with Spanish. But there is am I talking too much?
Nope.
No.
I'm breaking out of my shell. I'm a shy person. That kind of thing. Timid. That's what I am. One of the things that was funny with Spanish is dialect. Yeah, one has to remember there's dialect and there's phrases that people use. So I was on the phone training in this new Spanish-speaking environment, trying to get basic things to help clients. And I worked for a credit card company, and the person who was training me, fluent in Spanish, she had to go to lunch or step away or something. So I thought, okay, I'll just sit here. I'll take a call. That's not a problem. I can do this. And so the phone rang. In my ear, I picked it up. And at the same time, simultaneously, the account comes up on the computer screen. And from what I could see on the account, I know what this person needed. It's a brand new account. The card was not active, and they needed to activate it. That's really the only thing that they could have possibly wanted. Mm-hmm. So as the person is speaking to me, they said, well, they had gotten the card, if you will. And I'm listening to what she says. I'm listening for the verb activar. And I know what she wants. I'm listening for tarjeta, which is card. I'm listening for activar, which is activate. And I'll be good to go. But that is not what she said at all.
Oh.
She's from Texas. And she said to me, and I'll say it in Spanish, Señor, mi tarjeta me cayó. Which literally means my card has fallen on me.
Yeah.
What? And I said, discúlpame, señora, repítemelo. I'm sorry, ma'am, can you repeat that? Mi tarjeta me cayó. What is she saying? So now I have this visual that maybe she walked into a store that had a gigantic display of the credit card, and it
fell over on her.
What is she saying? I don't know what she's saying. What is it? Well, that's a colloquialism that the card fell on me. So in English, we say, you know what? I was doing all these things, and now this guy left my job, and now all of his responsibility fell on me. She was saying that it came to her. She received the card and wanted to activate it, just like I thought. But when she said her card had fell on her, I didn't know what she was talking about. So the girl comes back from lunch, and I tell her this story, and I said, she said something about the card falling on her, and the girl was beet red with laughter. Jack, did she say me tarjeta me cayó? I said, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. It means that the card came. Oh, how come she didn't say that? So when you learn another language, you're gonna have those things in between the translating. It's like, what are you talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
When dealing with the differences in culture too, what did you experience when you first started becoming more fluent in Spanish, would you say?
That's a good question when it comes to culture, because something my Spanish-speaking teacher told me when we were in class is that Spanish is a language, not a nationality. Just because someone may be Mexican-American, for example, it doesn't mean they speak Spanish. Just because someone isn't, doesn't mean that they don't speak Spanish. So she was helping us to appreciate culture along with the language, which to this day I totally appreciate, because I don't think that one could truly learn a language without appreciating the culture. It has to do with the method of thinking and why certain things are phrased the way they are. And that could be the reason why, and this is just my own thought, it could be the reason why a lot of individuals who take those 2 or 3 years in school, or maybe even 4 years in a university, and then they come out years later and still don't know anything, it's more likely because they didn't take an opportunity to be immersed in the culture. That's a good question, Anthony. That's a really good question.
Yeah, because that's kind of what I've learned, being exposed more to like Mexican music from this area. I never really knew Spanish growing up, but I found it was a fun way to kind of get introduced to it because I enjoy music, and I just thought it was interesting in this area.
Yeah. And then, so that was the Spanish situation. With Portuguese, fast forward, I'm still at this job where, mi tarjeta me cayó, the card's falling on me. I'm still at the same job. Same team, same unit. But now there were more Brazilian clients calling. And so they hired a Brazilian woman. Well, I didn't know any better. I thought Brazil spoke Spanish. What do I know? I'm not geographically inclined. But of course, they speak Portuguese there. And so what happened is that when her phone calls, she had so many in queue, if you will, they would roll over to the Spanish line, which is where I was. So I'm hearing this language, and I'm thinking, I have to learn this language. I haven't felt this way since Spanish. I have to learn this language. At the same time, my bosses, See, now I'm thinking in Portuguese. I was about to start speaking Portuguese. My bosses were recognizing that we needed more Portuguese speaking people. So they took 6 of us Spanish speakers, put us in a class, paid for it for us to learn Portuguese. And the day after the first class, we had to start taking phone calls in Portuguese. They're like, we're paying for this. You're on. Throw into the deep end of the pool.
Wow.
And so with that kind of an environment and everything, I became fluent in Portuguese in about 6 months.
Wow.
Because it was Portuguese for Spanish speakers.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole verb conjugation, everything, that they didn't have to spend time explaining that in Portuguese because we already knew it in Spanish. And then just kept doing it. Where now Portuguese is pretty much my main language, dreaming and doing stuff.
Oh, that was one of the questions that we had.
It is,
We had some people, like our audience, write in some questions, and one of them was, which language you dreamt in?
Mm-hmm.
Portuguese, and then it's been a while since I can remember dreaming in Spanish. English, of course, is in there, but for the most part, I'm going to say, let's say 49% Portuguese, 51% English.
Wow.
Yeah, that's in my head.
Yeah, you really did get immersed in it, because it's funny. You do reach a point where your thoughts are in that language, and sometimes you'll slip up. I don't do that now, but there was a time period where I would like slip up and use the Portuguese word or use an expression, like, because for example, if you're around a lot of Portuguese speakers who English is their second language,
right?
Sometimes they say things incorrectly in English, but it just starts to catch on. Like a very common one, and I think I mentioned this to Santino before, but a very common one in my old in Connecticut was they used to say open the light or close the light.
Exactly.
Abre luz, fecha luz.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense in English, but after a while you keep hearing it so much, you're like, oh yeah, open the light. And so when you say it around somebody who does not, speak Portuguese, or just like a family member or something, I'm like, oh, can you open the light, please? I'm like, oh wait, that doesn't make any sense. I need to. Can you turn on the light, please?
But it's interesting because individuals, you'll hear them say when they want to get out of the car, you want to get down with me?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want to let's go make groceries?
Yeah.
So that direct translation, it is quite interesting in of itself. But even now, because I'm looking at the two of you, and I know that you are Portuguese speaking and Spanish speaking, it's very hard to speak to you in English right now. It really is. I'm really concentrating for the audience.
Nice.
But how often when you're speaking Spanish or Portuguese do you get those mixed up?
It's well, actually, I get them mixed up when I know that the person in front of me speaks the language, or I'm in an environment that speaks one language and a person from the other language comes in. I don't know if this makes sense.
Yeah.
Example, I'm in one place and everything is in Portuguese. But then a Spanish speaker walks in, and now I can't remember Spanish. I'm only speaking to them in Portuguese, or vice versa, that kind of thing. But, once it gets rolling, then there's no problem. But yeah, that's when it becomes, I'm thinking in Portuguese right now. Stop.
Well, here, I'll give you a chance to think in another language. What's a word either in Spanish or Portuguese that you can't express in English that you really appreciate?
Oh, for Portuguese, any Portuguese speaker will tell you, saudade. Saudade, cafuné, desabafar. So saudade is. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm talking too much. Please.
No. I'm listening. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. I'm listening. But out of those 3 words you mentioned, I kind of feel like I can't even say it right. Saudades does have a good English equivalent, but I want to hear it from you because you're the expert here.
Oh no expert here, please.
No.
That's how we're selling this. You are the expert.
Because because in my head, I kind of view it as like you miss something, or you have like you miss a particular thing, or a particular you have, feelings of missing something.
Exactly.
A longing
Well, for
for
me, in my mind, to miss something straight from English would be in Portuguese, sentir falta. I miss that person, or I miss that thing. But saudade is slightly different, because saudade is, how can I put this? It's a yearning. It is missing something that you enjoyed at one time that you've experienced before.
Okay.
Example.
Okay.
Let's see here. You're from back east. You're from Connecticut. You mentioned it just a few moments ago, right? So, like, I can't have well, that's not right. That's not the term I want to use. It's difficult to explain in English.
Right. That's which is what you said. So
it makes sense.
Because saudade carries with it a yearning as well. Like, for example, if I really, 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 really want to go to Connecticut to visit, in English, I could say, I yearn to go to Connecticut. I really have the desire to really want to go. Okay. But I cannot have saudade for Connecticut, because I've never been there, enjoyed it, and left it. You can have saudade for Connecticut. I cannot until I've gone there. It's almost homesickness. You have to have experience. And see, now look at all the words that I've used in English to explain saudade.
Yeah, I get it.
It's
no,
more
I
like
do get it.
A concept, I think, and that's the.
Yeah, that's it. It's a concept. That's probably a better term versus something tangible. It's a concept.
Because that's what I found in sign language too. A lot of the words are concepts. It's not like an individual word to express something. That's why I always found it fascinating.
Exactly. And I think that's a lot of English speakers may have they have challenges in learning foreign language just because of what you just said there. And that is conveying concepts versus words. English is I like to call it a very domineering language. If you grow up speaking only English, it's almost like English won't let you pronounce foreign words. If you try to pronounce it, you'll use it with the English pronunciation of the vowels and the consonants.
Yeah.
It's a very dominating language. Spanish will let you do Portuguese. I talked with a guy who spoke Arabic, and he said that Arabic is a better language to learn because in Arabic, it contains the sounds of a majority of the languages on the earth. In some way, the sounds are there that are. I didn't really question him about it. I just went, okay, you speak Arabic, so okay. I wasn't going to question him like what?
Like what?
Like, apparently in Arabic, there's a sound in inye, the N with the tilde over in Spanish. E, those different types of vowels that exist. Apparently, they're all incorporated somewhere or another in Arabic, is what he was saying. So in learning Arabic, he could go from Arabic to other languages because he could connect it with Arabic. Any of your listeners who speaks Arabic can shoot me down on that. That's fine.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to hear.
Yeah.
And what were the other two words?
Desabafar.
Okay.
We really do have a word in English for that, which is like vent. This is when you're pouring out all of your anxiety and everything that's bothering you. You're just venting, just to get it out. It's built up, and it's like, I gotta talk to somebody. I do this, to a friend or a relative or something. You just desabafar. You just pour it out, spill it out, that kind of thing. The other one is kafune, which is actually an African word that comes from either Angola. I forget if it's Cameroon. I have to look it up again. But kafune is the specific rubbing the head and stroking the hair of a loved one. It's very, very specific. That's the only time you can say that uma pessoa está dando cafuné. That person is giving someone cafuné. In English, we would just say stroking the hair. You stroke the hair of your daughter, stroke the hair of your wife. But cafuné is very specific.
Wow.
And are there any words in Spanish that you feel the same way about?
Let me think about Spanish. I'm trying to think if there's a word if there's a way to express something in Spanish that English doesn't do.
Tortilla.
I haven't really found anything specific in Spanish, and let me rephrase that because that would be a lie. I can't remember something in Spanish that I would rather express in Spanish than in English. There's something out there. I can't remember it now, but I'll be talking to somebody tomorrow in Spanish like, oh, that's what it was. Maybe I can call them.
Yeah. If there, have you had an opportunity to visit any Spanish or Portuguese speaking countries? And if so, which ones?
Yes. The wife and I, we got a chance to go in 2019, right before the pandemic, which is great. We had a chance to go to Lisbon, Portugal. And we were there for about a week and a half. And for a minute, when we were in Lisbon, walking the street, like we lived there, because we were going to a laundromat, we had our clothes with us, and we were just walking in the whole deal. We actually thought about retiring there. It was only a minute though, but it was a long minute. And then we came to reality if that's not gonna happen. But it's such a
nice place.
It's such a beautiful country. Many people retire there. Many people from England, many people from the United States, they go to Portugal to retire. But it was the first opportunity, the first place that we were in since we learned Portuguese, where everybody spoke Portuguese. We had never been in an area or an environment like that. All the signs, walking down the street, going to a restaurant, everyone speaking Portuguese. It was mind-blowing. And when you're a nerd like myself, it was super mind-blowing.
And I learned some new words there, like comboio, for example. I didn't know what that meant.
Yes.
Or
Casa de Banho.
Yeah, well, I did know that one. I heard people say that. Autocarro. Yeah, there were some words that I had to understand, and the accent is very different.
Yes.
You don't hear any você and stuff like that there. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you get a chance to go to Belém or some of the other surrounding?
It was not part of the tour that we had.
Gotcha.
But we went to the Rio Tejo, the Tejo River. It's not Tejo. I forgot how you say it in English, but it's the river that's one of the main rivers there in Portugal. And what I didn't know is that in Brazil they have the big statue.
They have one there.
Yeah.
They have one in Portugal. Yeah, a little one. I was like, oh, check it out. Click.
Yeah. Yeah. What was your favorite food there in Portugal?
Oh, it was salmon at a restaurant called Casa Dourado, which is right down the street from our hotel.
Okay.
The salmon was like thick like a steak, and every piece of salmon since then that I've had is judged against that piece of salmon. And nobody, I love my wife. Remember I said how she's, good cook out the kitchen and everything? She can't produce that in the oven. Her salmon is really good. Don't get me wrong. She's listening. Her salmon is really good. But measuring it against that salmon at that restaurant and some other fishes too that they had, nothing can touch it. There's nothing can touch it.
Let me ask you this: was the salmon? So was it like a typical fillet that you would find here, or was it, was it more of the whole fish because one thing I noticed is that a lot of the fish meals that you order there, and I had to get used to this, they put the entire fish on your plate. And I wasn't used to that.
Ours was the fillet.
It was the fillet. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was perfect. You can't really have anything perfect, but it was perfect. The skin around the edge was just crisp enough. The inside was just flaky and juicy enough. I'd never experienced, as you can tell, it's an emotional feeling for me. It wasn't just eating.
So dodgy.
It was an experience having it. It was amazing. It was interesting because what we didn't realize is that they only had salmon. It's a catch of the day. It's only on a certain night. We assumed that it was part of the regular regiment. So we went inside. When we first went in, we were there, and there were some other Americans there, other English speakers that were there. And we noticed that they sat us all in the same space, in the same row. And then it dawned on us, it's probably because they only have one waiter that speaks English. That's the reason why they put them there. But when my wife and I began to speak Portuguese to them, their whole attitude changed. The cook came out of the kitchen. He let Wanda sample some new stew that he was doing, gave us a bowl for free. And it was a whole different thing. Okay, that's the first time we go in. So next time we go in, because again, we're craving the salmon, we went in, and that's when we found out it wasn't the catch of the day. And there was another fish that was there, which was good, just not the salmon. And so later on, another night, my wife wasn't feeling too well, but she's like, do you mind going down, walking down the street and to the restaurant? I said, and get the salmon? Yeah, would you mind? I said, no problem at all. Now, what my wife had said to them the day before, 2 days before, that we'll be back for the salmon. And he said, yeah, we'll have it in 2 days from now. Well, he must have miscalculated, because when I went there, he goes, oh no, today is not the salmon day. I said, oh, because we had the same waiter each time. I said, oh, well, my wife, she really, really wanted that salmon. And he said, hold on. Do you know if they went in the freezer or the refrigerator and they made the salmon especially for my wife?
Oh, wow.
Nice. Wow.
This is all because we spoke Portuguese.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. They're like, you speak our language, you family.
It was awesome. It really, really was. As a matter of fact, I'm going to WhatsApp to you. I don't know. There we go.
Sorry, I thought it was checked. It wasn't.
Oh,
ooh,
wow.
That looks really good.
That's the salmon, man.
I have never seen salmon like that, because it's usually like a
It's both sides of the fish, right?
that is amazing.
Yeah, when I got one, get the broccoli and the potatoes, but it was very good, man. I can't. Go ahead.
And what kind of wine did you have with it?
You know what? I'm not a wine drinker. We didn't drink any wine, so just that water, the water that's sitting there in the bottle in front of us.
Oh, okay. Nice.
No,
that is awesome.
Man, it was great. It really was great.
Do you get a chance to try any of their pastries or anything there?
Pastel de Belém.
Okay.
That was
I love
very
those.
good.
Yeah.
Pastel de Belém. And we went to a couple of different restaurants too. It was and I can't really think of the names of the pastries, but they were good. There was an ice cream, was it a gelato or something? I forget. That was in the mall, so that was nice too.
Awesome. And so, beside Portugal, is there anywhere else that you've traveled to where you got a chance to put those language skills to the test?
Well, we went to South Africa. They have Portuguese-speaking people there, so I got to use that a little bit. But
Brazilians or Portuguese?
No, actually, from Angola.
Oh, Angolans. Okay, that makes sense.
When we were in South Africa, and then when we were actually language-wise, that pretty much is it. I mean, we've been to Canada, But then who hasn't? Well, actually, a lot of people haven't.
I haven't.
Canada.
You're not missing out on anything. I'm just kidding.
Just
Just
You're
United
going to
States
infuriate our Canadian listeners,
basically.
Aaron.
I always wonder. No, I'm just saying, but I always wonder why there shouldn't even be a border there. It really is. It really is a continuation.
It's
we're
true.
cousins. We're cousins.
Yeah, it's like the other side.
Yeah.
Let's see, where else have we been? We went to there was South Africa. No, it's actually those are the only countries we've been to. I want to go to Mexico, which would be cool. I've been to Mexico, but my Mexico experience is driving to the border, parking on this side, walking to the other side, spending a couple hours and walking back over to this side.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really the Mexican experience that I'm looking forward to. You know what that's like? It's like eating Taco Bell.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. Love it.
That's not really the Mexican food experience.
So then for somebody who has, because you said like English is so dominant, and I think for me, I've learned that in my life too, because I didn't realize how much you have to change your mouth movements and your throat and the way that you say different things. But why would you tell somebody that they should try to learn another language if they can?
To understand that, I think it's important to understand that concept. Otherwise, you'll get frustrated. Why can't I learn this? Why can't I say it? If you go into it knowing the language that you speak is my personal thing. I'm sure there's some technical term and maybe it doesn't exist, but English is a brain dominating language. The grooves of English are in your brain. If you go into it knowing that, then you can make that extra effort to roll the R, to use the nasal sound, to figure out the different tones that are in Vietnamese and Chinese, whichever the case might be. And for me, I think that would help knowing that going in.
And then what spice has it added to your life learning 2 other languages?
My goodness.
That maybe you wouldn't have had if you didn't.
Dude, oh my goodness, I'm starting to sweat because it's opened up everything. The ability to associate with other people and other cultures. Mm-hmm. That is phenomenal to me. But then to help other people, to be in the store where the cashier is not Spanish speaking and someone behind me is Spanish speaking and they're trying to convey something, and for me to interpret, that's phenomenal. The wife and I were almost in a pretty bad car accident on the way from Prescott once. And we were, it's interesting because I was driving what would be really kind of too close to this truck that was in front of me. And I had realized, I'm like, you know what? I'm driving way too close to this truck. Let me back off of this truck. I wouldn't say 3 seconds later, the car on the side of that truck that was passing it, the tire blew and ran right into that truck. We would have been right in that accident. It turns out that they were all the same family traveling together.
Oh no.
Which is kind of sad. Nobody was hurt. The car, the cars were messed up and everything. Nobody was hurt. We stayed there because we were witnesses. We saw it. Actually, we almost had it on videotape. Because we had our videotape with us because we were up in Prescott, right? So we stayed there. The police showed up, and nobody spoke English. And so I told the policeman, I speak Spanish, and so I translated for them. And when I'm in translation mode, sometimes I'm not paying attention to what I'm saying. I'm just translating the words. And so here's the reason I'm telling you this. So we drive off, and I was telling my wife, I said, wow, that woman, she really held that truck in place. She was the one that was hit. And my wife goes, Jack, what are you talking about? It was the man that was driving. I go, no, when I was back there and the policeman asked, who was driving and who had the driver's license, the woman took out her Mexican driver's license and showed it to the policeman. And that's what I just translated. She goes, Jack, it was the man that was driving. It was then that I remembered it was the guy. I have it on videotape because as soon as the accident happened, I pulled out my videotape and from behind, and he got out the driver's side.
Oh.
So we were way up the road. We turned around, got off the next exit, drove all the way back. They were all still there, came up, and I translated. I told the police, I said, "I'm sorry, sir. There's been a mistake in my translation." And so I told, because the guy speaks no Spanish, right? The policeman. So I told the people in Spanish, I said, "Listen, I have to tell the truth. I'm a very religious person. And I know, ma'am, that you weren't driving, that it was actually him. I have it on videotape, and I have to tell the policeman." But the cop has no idea what I'm saying. So I translate, I go, "Sir, I think they want to tell you something. I made a mistake. It was him that was driving." And then the cop goes, "Well, is that true?" And I translated, what was said. I said, "Now remember," I said, "Well, sir, let me tell you let me tell them what you said." "Okay, he's asking you if it's true. You got to tell the truth, because if not, I'm gonna have to pull out my tape and show. I'm sorry, I have to do this." So the guy explained he didn't have a license and he was scared, and that's why he told his wife to show her driver's license. And so the policeman quasi understood. He was upset because they had lied to him, but he understood that and why I came back and everything too, and but things like that. Going back to your question, I'm sorry, I think I got way off topic. Of has it affected me in knowing other languages? Absolutely. Absolutely. I love the fact that I communicate with people. The workers that come to my house, he speaks English fine, but Spanish is his first language. So I talk to him in Spanish all the time. He's like, "Jack, I didn't know you spoke that much Spanish." And in my head, I'm thinking, you have no idea how little English I speak now because of it.
That's funny.
But no, go ahead, Aaron. I'm sorry.
No. I was just gonna say that was good. I appreciate that. And it's funny because when he asked you like if it added any spice to your life, I was looking for what spices you bought when you went grocery shopping. And so
I do buy a hotter hot sauce.
Right. But you understood his question correctly. Just a few quick questions real quickly before we wrap up. These are some of the questions that people sent in. And you already answered one, which language do you dream in? You, even though your profession isn't necessarily interpreting, you do interpret. So these questions still fit. I think everyone was thinking that you were a professional interpreter, but
I thought you were really a professional interpreter.
But that's
actually my dream job. I would love to do that.
Yeah, so that's what these questions are. But again, I think so we'll just rattle off a couple real quickly. Sure. How accurate are movies and TV shows when they speak the language you know? So Portuguese, Spanish, how accurate is it?
Interesting, because I have seen subtitles and things like a Portuguese one. And I'm going to say in the 90 percentile range, they're accurate. But there's a lot of stuff that's left out. And I'll even go back to an old show. I Love Lucy. I Love Lucy is so much funnier now that I understand Spanish. I know what Ricky's saying to Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
And then he'll say a little bit in English and the audience will laugh because it's the English word. But I'm like, oh, he's really talking to her, about something, whatever. So much funnier. I like watching bilingual movies and shows that go between the two, because it helps me to understand it. And it is funnier. But as far as accuracy, I'm going to put it in the 93 to 95% percentile. 100%, okay. No way.
Okay. All right, awesome. And last question is, because you did answer quite a few of the ones that people did ask.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
just through the conversation, it kind of went there naturally.
Right. Yeah, which is perfect. But one of the questions, and while it's not going to be direct, it is an interesting question. What are some of your pet peeves in this field? So in other words, you're not, obviously this is not your main job, but Are there any pet peeves that you run into as far as either learning or trying to translate for anyone, or is there something about either language that you just find just annoying?
That is a very good question. Are there any pet peeves in interpreting or translating? Not really. I guess if I'm interpreting or speaking for someone, maybe speaking too fast in the one language and not giving me time to continue, or saying too much where
Okay.
I've forgotten the first part of what you said and I only remember the second part. I guess I can put that as a pet peeve. One of the things that's interesting is a pet peeve at my current place of employment is I'm not allowed to speak Portuguese on the phone to the client because our calls are monitored and they have someone who can monitor the English calls and the Spanish speaking calls. Although I have to actually be certified to speak Spanish. I'm a certified speaker of Spanish, and I have to take a test every year.
Mhm.
So everyone else, they have to call an interpreter line to get someone to speak Spanish. But if I get a Spanish speaking client, I can go ahead and do it. But also with Portuguese, this is a pet peeve because I'm also a certified teacher of Portuguese. I've had the pleasure of teaching at least almost 30 people in a class environment and getting certified to do so to teach them Portuguese. But if I get a Portuguese speaking client, I'm not supposed to speak to them. And I've done it, and they recorded the call and said, Jack, you can't speak Portuguese. So I have to call out to the translator line, get someone who speaks Portuguese, sit there and listen to both languages that I understand. The client is speaking in Portuguese. I know what he says, but I have to wait for the English translation for him to tell me. I have to tell the English speaker, what I'm saying, and then he tells me in Portuguese, which I know. So
that is
those
hilarious.
calls are a little annoying.
Has the interpreter ever made a mistake before?
The Portuguese speaker, they sometimes use a word that I wouldn't have used. I would have chosen another word. Why?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the industry. They're translating the best word they know. I know the word because it's my job for the past 2 decades.
Right. So there's specific industry terms that are used that have a word, but because they're probably interpreting for all types of businesses.
Exactly.
So they may not know. I can see that, especially like if it was medical or something. I can see them not knowing, like, I don't know what this is, but it's a tube and they want to, or something like that.
Exactly. I had that in Spanish once because at my job, we had a Spanish team, but the company decided that it was better for everybody to take the calls. And when you need Spanish, to go and get an interpreter versus transferring it to my team, the Spanish team. When that announcement was made, it did not go over well at all. I was going to boycott it. And I said, well, if you're not going to pay me to speak Spanish, then I won't take calls in Spanish. That was my first thing. So I called the interpreter line. I said, I'm like I do in Portuguese, I'll just do it with Spanish, and they're not going to pay me and blah, blah, blah. Fine. Mm-hmm. I took that first call and I'm listening to the guy. I'm like, oh, no. I can't use this service. He's using words that are not words specific to my industry. He's just using random words type of thing. Oh, no. This is not good customer service to my client. No. I'll just take my own Spanish calls and I'll just keep myself certified in that particular measure. But to be a professional interpreter, I have a friend who he interprets for the court in both Spanish and Portuguese. But to have a job like that and that be my job, that is a dream job. I would love to have that job.
So I know we're trying to wrap it up, but I just had one more question about the whole interpreting thing. You are a very expressive person, which is good, but I've seen it before where the interpreter wasn't expressive and the English speaker was very expressive in like a public speaking setting.
Right.
So what kind of things would you interpret?
Right.
How would you try to convey that feeling? Or if you had like another speaker who was telling a story very expressive, like how much would you try to imitate their expressions?
Oh, if they're very expressive, I have no problem. I've got no problem. We're gonna go ahead and go all out.
All out.
It's the one that's calm that I have to kind of bring myself down. However, with interpreting for an audience, if you know your audience, some things that the English speaker might be saying low, for the Portuguese speaking audience, Brazilians especially, you have to be expressive to bring out the whole point for them to get it. They may not get it if the point of what he's saying, if he's not expressive, he's just saying the words. I may have to be expressive for them to get the point of the words he's saying. Whereas if you're sitting and listening in English, you get it, no problem, because you know the words that are being said. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does, because like you were saying, some words in Portuguese convey things that you can't really in English, and so you'd also have to give the emotion behind it as well, because it's not a stale language by any means.
Exactly.
And English can be like monotone, just have them talking all day.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You can do that with English. It's not based on pitch, although pitch is obviously varying in pitch and pace. It's obvious that it would be nice, but it's not required.
Yeah.
Portuguese and Spanish, that's required in order to get the right meaning. You know, tudo bem, tudo bem. You know, you can't say those two the same and get the same meaning out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the hardest thing for me, was like, I try to be expressive, but like trying to be that expressive is like nerve-wracking for me sometimes, but it's fun. I'm a little bit more introverted when I'm around other cultures too, so it's a little bit, I had to get out of my shell with that one. We went to Brazil and everybody was hugging me, and I was just like, oh, yes, okay. Just let it happen, but
I'll just let it happen.
I mean, it's nice that people feel that way about you, but it's kind of hard to, it's just
if
funny.
You're not used to it. It's very true. It's very true. When I would have, I would have individuals, come and visit, and if because of the fact of it being a Portuguese speaking environment, so individuals might come to visit who are American, and I tell them ahead of time, like on the phone or before they get to the door, okay, well, we're glad to have you here. Okay, listen, I have to tell you, don't freak out. We all hug each other, men as well as women, and it's fine. Don't freak out. And we use first names here versus traditionally last names.
Oh yeah.
Don't freak out. So you have to introduce people a little bit to the culture. And afterwards, I've had individuals go, I'm so glad you told me that.
Yeah. It's so funny you mentioned that. It just reminded me of a quick story. In Connecticut, we used to do the 2 kisses on each cheek. For any time it was,
you greet someone.
Right. Yeah. It was a greeting, especially for like sisters or whatever. It was just common. And I remember I got so used to it every meeting. In fact, my back got stronger when I was there because I was constantly bending down doing all these kisses the whole time. So it was just, I got so used to it that when I went back to Detroit to visit, I saw one of my friends, she's married, and just out of habit, I went up to her, and the first thing I did as a gift, I did the one kiss on one cheek. And as I did that, her husband was standing behind her, looking at me like,
what's going on? And
I was like, I forgot I'm not in Connecticut anymore, but I got so used to it. And he was looking at me like, we go way back, so I'm gonna let that slide. But I really, anyone else, I would cut you. But I'm gonna let that slide.
No,
but it's just funny. you just become so comfortable with the culture. And then of course when I moved out here, it's very different. It's like people are just kind of like so
well, English culture is like that out here.
Yeah.
Not the Hispanic,
it's like yeah, exactly. It's just kind of a little bit more like, here's my block of space. So I adjusted back to that, but I was so immersed in it that that was an interesting experience.
Yeah.
Oh God, it was so funny. I wish I could. Well, anyway, if I ever did like a life story in a video, that would definitely be like one scene from that movie.
You have to do that.
Aaron makes another terrible mistake. Episode 7.
Right. Exactly.
What to do and what not to.
What not to do.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
The life and times of Aaron Owens.
Do I have time for one more little one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So in the Caribbean, in Spanish. Okay. Actually, I have two little quick stories here. You're talking about, the double kissing and everything. I'm not comfortable with other women calling me mi amor. And so I'm talking to clients and I can see on the address, they're from Florida. So they're probably from Cuba or they're from Puerto Rico or wherever the case is. And every other word, mi amor, mi amor, mi amor. And in my head, I'm getting angry and angry. I am not your amor. I'm not your love. And it took me a long time to come to the conclusion. Wait, this is just the way. It's like in the South where they say honey. It's just a way to express. It took me a long time to get there. It took me a long time to get there. Until I was comfortable with another woman saying, mi amor, mi amor. I said, what? I'm not your amor.
I'm not sure.
Senor, But the other thing about regional Spanish, just real quick, is with certain terms. Well, some Spanish speakers don't know other terms of other Spanish speakers. So I'm on the phone, and I'm looking at information. I can tell that there's one of the things I do. I'm an underwriter, credit underwriter. So I'm looking at credit reports and things, and I could see that someone's vehicle, the loan had been repossessed or something happened with it. But before we loan more money to them, what happened to that loan? Are you gonna have a repossession with us? So I asked her in Spanish, what had happened, and she said to me, she's from Puerto Rico. She said to me, "Oh, yo sé qué pasó. Yo sufrí un accidente en mi guagua." Which is, I know what happened. I had an accident in my wawa. In your what? In my wawa. What in the world is a wawa? And as an adult, how can you be comfortable saying that word? And so I'm asking everyone around me, Spanish speaking, what's a wawa? And no one knows because they're all Mexican except for one guy who's Dominican.
Oh.
And he says, I know what it is. It's a van. It's like a minivan. Well, I didn't, because apparently in the past they used to deliver water. Agua. Guagua. Wawa is where it comes from. Well, I didn't know that. How can a grown woman be talking about wawa? I don't know this.
That is hilarious.
And one last one, and then I'll be quiet. I promise. Not really.
Good.
That's fine.
It's the word, and I don't know if you know this one, Anthony. Ahorita.
Ahorita.
There are two meanings for that. Ahorita.
It's like now?
Now, for Mexicans, I was going to say for us, because, I consider myself un negro mexicano. So
I'm a white Mexican, so it's all good.
it means right now. Ahorita, right now.
Okay.
But in the Caribbean, it doesn't. Ahorita in the Caribbean, in the Dominican, and in Puerto Rico, it means later on, sometime in the future.
Oh, man.
So I'm on the phone and I'm talking to a person and I tell them that, oh, congratulations, I've increased your credit line. They say, when is it available? And I say, ahorita.
Later.
So the Mexican says, great, I'll go and start spending. The Caribbean says, okay, so when? Ahorita, right now. Oh, okay, I understand. So when? What they're hearing is when they say, when will it be available? I'm saying to them, later on. They're like, well, when later on? And I say it again, later on. Well, when later on? So I stopped saying ahorita.
And say what? Ahora?
Inmediato. Immediately.
Oh, immediato. Immediato. Okay.
So dialect, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to learn. Well, my first attempt at learning Spanish was when I was 19, and a friend of mine, he was like, "Yeah, I'll show you how to like speak and stuff. Here's some expressions, this and that." And so then I tried talking to somebody else, and they're like, "Don't listen to him. He's Dominican. He doesn't know how to speak Spanish." And I was like, "What? I just thought it was all the same." They're like, "That's not how you say that."
That's hilarious.
So I gave up.
You know, my wife would not mind me telling you all this story. This happens in English too.
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing is after I learned that, then I had to look at myself, and then I see everything else that's backwards about my own language, and then I was super confused. I was like, what is, like, language? Why did I even start doing this?
This is true. This is true. The wife and I, we had to have an interpreting class because she's from the South. I'm from the Southwest. So one day in the house, she says to me, Jack, come here. Yes, dear. What is it? Can you go in the bathroom and kill that water bug? For the Arizonan, a water bug is a little bitty black hard beetle thing. So I go equipped to kill that. Apparently for people in the South, a water bug is a bug by the water. It's a cockroach.
Oh, man.
And I walk in prepared to kill a water bug, and the cockroach is sitting there going, so what's up?
Yeah.
In Michigan, that's how they were too. They were black cockroaches. Well, we called them water bugs because, you know, we didn't want to be associated with the brown roaches. We thought they were different. We thought we were better. We're like, we ain't got them brown roaches. We got water bugs. Well, go ahead.
Really?
I'm sorry.
So in Michigan, it's water bug as well?
For the black ones, yeah. The black ones are water bugs, but the little brown ones that we can typically consider roaches are roaches.
Oh, goodness.
But the black ones, and they usually would be in the basement around the drains and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So that's generally where you saw them.
That was in year 2 of our marriage. And so we immediately had a major, conversation about translation. Out here in the desert, this is this. And this is this.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I'm afraid to say things because I could be wrong as well. But I think something that's like native to Tucson is people saying that it's a Ganga deal. And I don't hear anyone else say that. But it was because some commercial was like,
I'm here in Phoenix going, what's that?
No, there was like some commercial or something, and the guy would say that, and like my parents would say it, and like other people would say it, but no one else really gets what you're saying. So I was like, oh, I guess it's just a Tucson thing.
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens regionally, man.
Fun stuff. Well, thanks a lot, Jack. Or Joaquim.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
We're towards the end.
Oh, no, this is part 1. We'll do part 2 next time, and we'll go into something else.
Well, I really thank you guys for inviting me. This was really cool. I really thought that I was going to be super nerd, super boring. There'd be crickets in the background because I didn't know what to say.
If there's anything that describes you, it's not boring. That's why. When we were like,
agreed.
I said, Aaron, we know what we're going to talk about, but I feel like there's so much more that we could say. So we're going to try to have to like keep it to a minimum. Condense it.
Well, I told you, once you start talking, you forget.
You were correct. Correct.
You completely forget. So, but thank you so much for joining us, and we would love to have you back in the future. If you could just do me a favor and just send me your address, because we like to send a little present to our guest.
You guys.
So yeah, if you could just send that to me, and then I will get something out to you.
It's a bill. No.
Yeah, right, exactly. We don't tell you that. We don't tell you what it is.
If that's the case, you need to address it to the other half. Keep the funds.
Okay,
That's too funny. That's too funny. No, thank you guys for the this is great. And I guess I'll ask you afterwards where it shows up in the whole deal and blah blah blah.
Yeah. Okay, well, this has been Two Crazy Scoops Podcast, Season 4, with your hosts, Ao and Antino. And we'd like to once again thank ANA for pushing our buttons this episode. And we will see you guys next time.